What if the next time you pay for more fuel for bread or for transport, it's not because of anything your government did, but because of a war you did not start, in a region you did not vote in, between powers that have never attacked Africa what it wants? Now, let's go further. What if the battlefield in the Middle East, but the casualties are African economies? And what if the conflict is not just about Iran, Israel, or the United States of America, but about who gets to control the future of Global South, including Africa? Tonight, we ask the uncomfortable questions. Is Africa merely watching history unfold? Or is Africa once again being written into it without its consent? Now, hello, I am Mahle Tayela, your host at Connect Africa. We are going to break it down what's happening in the Middle East, the United States, Israel, and Iran war. Now, in this breakdown, we are going to look at what it means, how it impacts this war, Africa, the long-term, short-term consequences, and what it needs to be done, and how it is connected to China, the strategy, all of it. We are going to spill that tea to you. While we do that, on the side, I would like to share this video from hours before, in which the Iranian government hit Tel Aviv. So I will just play that video just to give you a background of what is happening. So yeah, okay. Let's continue now with our breakdown, okay? So let's start with the question, how this affects Africa, how this war affects Africa. Now, as tensions escalates between the US, Israel, and Iran, the world's attention is fixed on the Middle East. But for Africa, this conflict is not a distant geopolitical drama. It is economic earthquake whose aftershocks will be felt in every market, every transport hub, and every household across the continent. When we say every household across the continent. Now, the immediate impacts, these are oil prices and everyday Africans. What does it mean? The most visible consequence is already upon us. Rising oil prices. Every African who uses petrol or diesel for transportation, which is to say every single one of us, will feel this pinch. In a continent where public transport is the lifeblood of daily existence and goods move primarily by road, fuel prices are not abstract economic indicators. They are the difference between affording a meal and going hungry. When transport costs rise, everything rises with them. Food, raw materials, manufactured goods, the African consumer, already stretched thin, becomes the ultimate bearer of a conflict 1,000 miles away. Now let's break down the geopolitical reality, African position of weakness. Now, the African position of weakness, here is what we would like to say. Beyond economics, this conflict exposes an uncomfortable truth because Africa's place in the world. Decades after independence, the continent remains fundamentally subjugated, economically dependent, politically marginalized, and strategically irrelevant. We are spectators in a game where the outcomes will shape our future. Yet we have not sat at the table. This is not accidental. It's the deliberate result of a global architecture designed to keep former colonies in a permanent state of dependency. And now let's see how this is connected to China. But before that, I would like to break down this to you so the connection with China. So how Africa's main partner gets dragged in. To understand the full implications for Africa, one must look at China as the continent's largest trading partner. China's economic health directly affects African livelihoods. And China is deeply entangled in this conflict. It might not be directly involved, but it's deeply entangled in this conflict. What does this mean? China imports approximately 80% of its oil from Iran. Any disruption in the Strait of Hormuz or escalation of hostilities will drive up China's energy costs. When China's industrial machine becomes more expensive to run, the cost of manufactured goods, the very products Africa imports from China, rises. Add to this the increasing cost of shipping. The result is a cascade of price increases that will make basic goods unaffordable for millions of Africans. Now, what is the larger strategy? What this conflict is really about? This is not merely a regional dispute. It's a part of a larger geopolitical a chess match with clear objectives. The United States is engaged in a systematic effort to suffocate China's economic rise by cutting off its access to cheap energy sources. Consider the pattern. In Venezuela, the US has effectively taken control of oil that once flowed to China. In Iran, the goal is not to disrupt or control another major source of Chinese energy. In Iran, the goal is to disrupt or control another major source of Chinese energy. In Russia, the strategy has been to manipulate prices, first driving them down to inflict losses, then pushing them up to benefit Western monopolies. Now, the hypothetical end game is clear. Bring China to its knees economically, keep the global south stagnated and subjugated, and preserve the economic dominance of Western powers. This is the unspoken meaning behind phrases like Western civilization, invoked by figures like Elon Musk, Jamie Dimon, and other Western intellectuals. When JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, a banker and not a militant person, calls for increased US military spending at every chance he gets on Western media, this is the context. What it means for Africa is short-term pain, long-term existential risk. For Africa, the consequences are twofold. Immediate consequences, largely unavoidable. These are higher fuel prices affecting every transport-dependent sector, increased costs for imported goods from China, strained household budgets, and reduced purchasing power, potential food security challenges as agricultural inputs become more expensive. Well, let's look at the long-term consequences, which are existential, but maybe avoidable. Perpetuation of Africa's role as a raw material exporter and finished goods importer. That's one long-term consequence. But it can be avoided. Deepening of economic dependency and political subjugation. Loss of any remaining sovereignty in a world dominated by competing imperial powers. The only scenario in which Africa avoids these long-term consequences is if China and Russia succeed in holding off Western dominance. This is not about choosing sides. It's about recognizing that a multipolar world offers more breathing room for the global south than a unipolar one where one power bloc dictates terms. Now, in conclusion, everything is connected. The conflict in the Middle East is not isolated. It's a front in a larger war for control of resources, markets, and the rules of the global economy. For Africa, the lesson is stark. As long as we remain dependent on imported energy, imported goods, and imported ideas, we will continue to pay the price for conflicts we did not create, for conflicts that are not even ours. The path to China independence lies not in choosing between global powers, but in building the continental infrastructure and productive capacity that would make Africa a participant in the global economy than its victim. Now, let me ask you a question. So we must ask ourselves, if every global crisis shakes African markets first, what does that say about our sovereignty? If our fuel, our food, our currencies, and our futures can be disrupted by decisions made in Washington, Tel Aviv, Beijing, or Tehran, are we truly independent? In a world drifting towards great power confrontation, will Africa remain a corridor for extraction and competition, or will it finally become a center of production, power, and decision? Will we continue reacting to global storms, just like now the African Union did, a statement that will not go nowhere? Or will we build the continental strengths to weather them? And the most important question of all is, if we do not define Africa's place in the emerging world order, who will? Please comment below for your answers on this question. For now, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will leave you here and until the next one. Bye-bye.